I'm Mr. Jewett.
And I'm Mr. Decker, and we're back with a new episode of the Social Studies Power Hour.
Well, it's more like 10 to 15 minutes.
Right, well, 10 to 15 minutes doesn't roll nearly as well. I also don't know how to rhyme 10 to 15 minutes with anything, whereas Power Hour rhymes really well.
Okay, but anyway, here we are back from the Dark Ages.
Yeah, we went full Little House on the Prairie there for a little while. It wasn't very fun.
Yeah, luckily at my house we had no power for about 18 hours, so it wasn't too bad. We have wood stove and gas stove to cook on. So other than the no running water, it wasn't really much of an issue.
See, mine was similar to that, except, well, we had running water, we had no heat, so we had to use the wood stove. And I didn't have power from about 8 o'clock Thursday to about 4:30 on Saturday. So there was some real ingenuity going on. And then it was a nice surprise Friday night to go down and find the basement, about 8 inches of water, the sump pump clinging for dear life. So I had a pretty adventurous weekend.
It sounds it.
Anyway,
Yeah, because of all of this, the lack of power for a lot of people in Maine right now, still, and the fact that Sunday was Easter, we're only going to do one video this week.
yeah, it's another one video sort of week, and we've got April vacation coming up next week, so taking it slow into the break and get ready for whatever comes after.
Yeah, speaking of what comes after, we, with our assignment last week, our narrative writing assignment, we are now done with the Great Depression.
Yep. And of course, happy times like the Great Depression are always followed by even happier times, so we're about to get into the most destructive war in human history.
Yay!
Yeah.
So we're going to turn our attention now to the World War II, which lasted from 1939 to 1945. A lot of us here in the United States think it started in 41, but it was happening a couple years before that.
Yeah. And if you lived in China, World War II started in 1931 when the Japanese invaded your country and started, massacring a lot of people there. So the start of the war has a different connotation depending on where you are. But in Europe, at least, we can safely say it started in about 1939 for most people.
Yep. But before even that, our first three lessons, or at least three lessons, are gonna focus on three leaders for the Axis powers. When we have World War II, we're looking at two sides. You have the Allies, which is the United States and our friends, and we have the Axis, which is Germany and their friends. We're going to look at a couple of Axis leaders before we do anything else.
Right, because this war kind of becomes a fight for the future of humanity sort of war. You've got three different governments kind of battling for supremacy. You have the democracy, capitalist style governments like us and Britain and France, and then you have the communist government style of Russia, and then you have the third part,
Russia? Excuse me?
the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Apologies,
There
comrade.
you go.
So, and then the third one, which is fascism, which is a completely different government style that we don't really see anymore, mostly because World War II basically destroyed all the fascist countries.
Right. So we're going to look at a few of those different leaders, but we're going to start with the one that everybody knows his name.
Yeah. Hitler. Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's start with a brief background of him. He was actually in World War I. He was a corporal in the German army. Even though he was Austrian-born, Austria-Hungary and the Austro-Hungarian Empire and German Empire, they were very closely allied during World War I. So Hitler was fighting for the Germans, and you can kind of see his beliefs and ideology just as a corporal in that war. He wasn't a high-ranking official, but you look at something like the Christmas truce, and he didn't like that. He just ordered his troops to continue fighting. Meanwhile, all up and down the trenches everyone's peaceful. Like there's even some soccer games and people trading what little food and goods they have, cigarettes, whatever. And he's out there saying, nope, don't do that. We're gonna keep fighting.
Yeah, history, oddly enough, has reflected on Hitler as not being a very nice guy or very fun to be around. Um, so there's a lot of general. It's easy to say Nazis are bad because Nazis are bad people. Therefore, it's easy to say Hitler is bad because Hitler was a Nazi and therefore a bad person.
Right, and one of the things that makes it so easy to say that he was a bad person because of Nazis stand for in the English language the National Socialist Germans or German Workers' Party, shortened to Nazis. Um, and one of the main things about that party is the belief of German blood being superior. And when you think German blood, you typically think the Aryan race. Okay, so that means me 10 years ago when I had blonde hair. Now there's not a lot of hair. And blue eyes. Okay, and typically that means the Aryan race. That's the quote-unquote German blood that is pure. That according to the Nazis, should take over the world, or at least Eastern Europe.
Yeah, there's a big extreme theme of the Nazi Party and fascism in general is like it's extreme nationalism and usually also extreme racism. If you were different, if you were not like a card carrying member of the Nazi Party, or when we get to Italy, Benito Mussolini wanted to create another Roman Empire and he wanted everyone to be Italian and Roman again, just like Hitler wants to make this glorious German Empire and destroy all the Slavs and create space for more German people to live. So there's a lot of extreme beliefs there.
Yeah, and right after World War One ended in 1918, things actually go pretty well for Hitler for a little while. He kind of controls. He starts the Nazi Party. He kind of rises to the ranks of that party and runs it, and it becomes pretty popular in Germany. And it's easy to understand why. You just ended a 4-year war where the Germans lost, where they were punished with the Treaty of Versailles. So it's easy for Hitler to kind of dig into those people's emotions and their feelings to make them want to think, hey, we're German, our race is better than you, let's do something about it.
Yeah, and the thing about tough times is when things are going badly, people turn to extreme situations for their answers. Happy people don't commit genocide, which is a kind of a bleak way of looking at it, but it's true. Like, people who are well fed and they have jobs and things are generally going well don't pivot into extremist beliefs. They tend to just live their lives and not necessarily bother others.
Right. And Hitler was on his way to trying to do that. He actually attempted a coup of overthrowing the German government, and it failed. And he actually went to prison as a result. He was Austrian born. He should have been deported, but a lot of people liked Hitler and liked what he stood for in Germany. So the German government decided, instead of putting him back to Austria-Hungary or Austria, to actually put him in jail. And he did something while he was in jail, Mr. Decker.
Yeah, he wrote a book. It's called Mein Kampf, also known as My Struggle. He only spent 9 months in jail, and he wrote a book. And the book kind of launched him into this worldwide fame, basically. I mean, Hitler was Time's Person of the Year in the 1930s, and he won a lot of accolades and was very well regarded because people thought he was doing things correctly. But before he gets there, he kind of fails at a lot of things. Like, the Nazi Party isn't very popular in the 20s when things are going well, and even though he commits treason, which in most countries would probably get you executed, he just goes to jail, but he still fails at committing this coup. And he's still, not really in a position where you'd think he could take over the entire country because things in Germany are going pretty well and people don't have much interest in extremely racist beliefs and targeting others. Look, it's Hazel. So they kind of just ignore him and treat him like an extremist. And then, well, he writes Mein Kampf, and still kind of gets ignored for a while, and people don't really care. And then all of a sudden,
The Great Depression
Great
happens.
Depression.
Just like it happened here in the United States in the late 20s, early 30s, the same thing happens worldwide. Okay, Germany, just like it happened here in the United States, Germany was hit hard with the Great Depression. They lost jobs. Their economy started to take a downfall. All those very similar things that were happening to the United States were also happening in Germany. And when something like that happens, it's easy to look to someone else to put blame onto, and that's kind of exactly what happened with Hitler. He was, for the last 10 or so years, putting blame onto people who weren't that German superior race. So he's looking at, people like Jewish people.
Yep. Yeah, Hitler targets Jewish people. He targets communists. The Communist Party was the second biggest party in Germany. Um, and their argument for ending the Depression was redistributing the wealth, which is a communist thing to do. Hitler's message was more like it's all these racial minorities that are causing these problems, and if we get rid of them, then these problems will go away. And then the standing government was doing basically nothing to stop the Depression. So people in Germany are looking for answers, and they're not finding it from the regular government. So they tend to kick towards either the Communist Party or the Nazi Party.
Yeah, and then there was an election in 1932 in which, once again, Hitler did not rise to power completely. Instead, the Weimar Republic, I got that right, yeah?
It's pronounced Weimar.
Same thing, Weimar, whatever. W's are V's, V's are for Volkswagens. Anyway, that's a thing. So they actually stay in power, but the people don't have the same affection towards them. A lot of people have kind of turned and put their faith into Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. So to have people feel strongly for the government, the Weimar Republic kind of thinks, hey, we will give Adolf Hitler a lot of power, but we will control him.
Right. Great plan. So Hindenburg, who was the leader of the German army during World War One, was really well liked, but he was also like 95 years old. And so he didn't have the ability to really lead the country anymore, even though he was the president. So he and his advisors say, you know what, people like Hitler a lot, and I think we can probably control him if we make him the chancellor instead of the president. So we're just going to let him have that spot. He can kind of run the government. We'll see, because being a leader will probably make him chill out a little bit. And things will be okay. We'll be able to handle it. And unfortunately for them, that proved to be wrong. And a few other steps happen, like Hindenburg dies at one point because he was old, and Hitler makes the step of, instead of putting in a new president, he just says no one could replace Hindenburg, so I'll take the position of chancellor / president. So I'll just do what the president does too, because no one could replace Hindenburg, so let's not even try. And that gave Hitler very extreme power in Germany, with the Nazi Party running the government as well.
Yeah, and once the Nazi government was completely in power, much like Hitler had been doing for years, he looks to really drive out anything that isn't that German superior race, that blonde hair, blue eyes. He looks at controlling the media. He looks at telling everybody that the Jews, the Jewish people, they're secretly in control of everything, and they're dictating your lives, and they're bad, and they're pulling the strings behind the scenes. And these are the kinds of people that we need to put a stop to if we want to rise back to the power and become, the country that we all want to be.
Yeah. So the long and short of it is he takes complete control, and these things that he had just been saying that were extremely racist, he starts to act on them. And we're definitely going to get into a lot more detail about it. But the important thing to remember is that there's a reason there are no Nazi and fascist countries anymore. It's because they're evil and Nazis are bad, and we destroyed the Nazi countries. So, yeah, keep that in mind. Go team. This is America's great victory over the world.
And it catapults us into that top leadership role for the foreseeable future.
Yep. That's a story for another day.
Indeed.
So, that's all we got for today, I think.
Yeah. Electricity's fun.
Yeah, although the wind just started kicking back up, so we might lose that again soon.
Please don't.
But anyway, I'm Mr. Decker.
And I'm Mr. Jewett.
And we're going to sign off for now.